Do you remember this scene in Forrest Gump?
And then, just like that, somebody turned off the rain and the sun come out.
Well, this really happened. Sort of. In the 1960s, US Defense Secretary Robert McNamara came up with an idea so stupid that it's one of history's biggest blunders. Today, we're talking about McNamara's Morons, the controversial program that lowered military standards so far that it sent 100,000 unqualified men straight into the Vietnam War, with pretty obvious results. Stick around to find out how the movie Forrest Gump was actually based on real events, sort of. Alright, so I'm guessing that you've heard of the IQ test. The Intelligence Quotient test was created in France in 1904, but it was soon adopted by the US military in 1917 as a means of assessing and classifying recruits on a large scale quickly. The Americans deemed that anyone who did not have an IQ of at least 80 could not serve in a productive role in the army. Therefore, anything that they did with an IQ under 80 would have been counterproductive. So the IQ test was like a sort of assault course for your brain. In order to be in the army, you must obtain a certain standard. Okay, so this was a success, and America performed well in the two world wars with this system. But then America did what America's always done and got itself into a random military quagmire called Vietnam. America invaded Vietnam in 1965 and very soon realized that they had bitten off more than they could chew. The Vietnamese were ferocious and held their own against the US despite being the major underdog. The Viet Cong built tunnels and used guerrilla warfare to ambush American forces and make the war a psychological nightmare for them. Alright, so obviously the smart thing to do would be if just pulled out, right? I mean, the Vietnam War was thousands of miles away from America, and it held no great military strategic importance. It was virtually unwinnable, and you've already lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers, so just walk away, bro, it's not worth it. Anyway, they ramped it up. Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, who apparently and ironically must have never taken the IQ test himself, had an idea. When all of America's soldiers were being killed, instead of changing his strategy to avoid further casualties, McNamara decided he just needed to keep sending wave after wave of his own men at the problem.
Knowing their weakness, I sent wave after wave of my own men at them.
Right, okay. McNamara's plan needed more soldiers, and he wasn't going to let well-established, time-tested standards get in his way. If all the good soldiers had died, why not do the exact same thing with bad soldiers? And by bad soldiers, I mean men who had failed the military's fitness and IQ tests. McNamara called his plan Project 100,000, but nowadays the recruits are unfortunately referred to as McNamara's Morons. This was probably best referenced in the Tom Hanks film Forrest Gump. In the movie, Forrest had a low IQ, and the army is one of the only ways that he could find employment. But the film also shows us how Forrest and men like him really didn't know what was going on. They were too stupid. Now, the average IQ is 100, and the standard deviation is 15, so most people's IQ is between 85 and 115. Now, everyone thinks that they've got an IQ of 140 plus, but in reality, we all float around the average. McNamara is said to have lowered the bar to as low as 70. Now, 70 is 2 standard deviations below the average. That's so low that if you were talking to someone with an IQ of 70, you would definitely realize that they were stupid very quickly into the conversation. It's completely unfair to put anyone with an IQ of 70 in the front lines of a war. The plan was that these men would get extra training and eventually rise above their deficiencies. In reality, though, they were often thrown into combat with little to no preparation. These men could not read maps, follow orders, or even tie their own boots properly. They were assigned to everything from rifle squads to mechanics, even though many of them struggled to read or count. Some tragic stories emerged. One soldier reportedly blew his own head off trying to clear a jammed rifle. Another soldier accidentally set off a grenade inside his own bunker. Officers and regular soldiers did not trust them, and in the chaos of Vietnam, that got a lot of them killed. McNamara's Morons died at a rate 3 times higher than those of regular soldiers. McNamara sold Project 100,000 as a way to give poor and uneducated men a chance of a better life, but in reality, these men were just used as cannon fodder. After Vietnam, many of them returned home with deep psychological scars, unable to hold regular jobs or reintegrate back into mainstream society. Some of them even ended up homeless, abandoned by the same government that sent them off to fight a war they barely understood. As for McNamara, he never apologized for the program. He did admit that Vietnam was a mistake, but he took zero responsibility for his role in the unnecessary slaughter of American lives due to his poor decision-making. McNamara was a coward by every measure of the word, a man who would send others to die all from the safety of his own desk. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching and have a great day.